Virtual Reality by Minto Kim. When I tell my mother that sometimes I forget the controllers are even there, she can scarcely believe me. What do you mean? Her tone is scathing. I feel the sleek plastic between my fingers, so fluid and in tune with my movements, but say nothing. The higher we trudge up the grassy steps, the more I stumble as they blend into a craggy slope. I look down, my chest heaving, to see that her avatar's face is aglow with exertion. Its design is distinctly her, faithful to each wrinkle and streak of grey. Every now and again the face warps, telling me that she's removed her VR goggles. My eyes can't breathe, my mother tells me, her words obscured by wheeze. I grunt, not bothering to pause in my ascent. She could have chosen the seaside package, or the forest one, but she wanted a mountain. When she was 12, her mother was buried on a real one, a proper one. To my mother, graveyard is a heavy word. It arouses flashes of grey, of cold stone and trees, pared to the bone. But this place is greener than grey. If it weren't for the tombstones that line it in rows all the way up to the crest of the mountain, it could be mistaken for a picnic spot. A moth lands on my arm in high definition, the span of its wings as wide as one of my palms. What could there be to complain about? Manufactured, I hear my mother chant like a petulant child. Frustration stings through my chest. I want to tell her that if everyone got what they wanted, there wouldn't be enough soil on the earth. Even our last president was buried here. As we arrive at her father's grave, she squats down and I hear the clicking of her controllers as she tries to uproot the weeds that litter the earth. But she's never been so good at using them, and each time she manages to grasp one, she's so shocked that she lets the button go. I stoop down beside her. Before long, the weeds have formed a limp pile at the border of my grandfather's territory. My mother clambers to her feet and gestures for me to withdraw the stick of incense from her bag. It lights up automatically, the intoxicating scent curling up our nostrils. We sink to our feet and touch our foreheads to the grass at my grandfather's feet. It's easy to forget that his body isn't really here, that his body could be anywhere. I turn my face to my mother as our surroundings fade. A pair of hands descends and removes the goggles from my face. The cloudless sky has been replaced by the exposed beams of a warehouse ceiling. Would you like to extend your session? A man asks as he stows the equipment away. My mother's lips are set in a line so hard that they've almost disappeared. No, I say. Thank you.
Let me dream you a world. I paint a frame of ancient stones, grimy white, weathered, writhed in blood and touched by flames, windswept and sunburned. My forefathers fashioned them into a tower to guard a vineyard. My neighbor's forefathers cleared the vines and sowed olive trees in their stead. And they still stand outside the window, wizened and beautiful, grandfathers of this land. Framed by the window, I sketch sloping terraces, golden brown and rusty green, their dry fell earth carpeted with leaves and dark olives. The sun is setting, encouraging me to add a layer of flaming colors to the clear blue sky. It is not the scenery that is remarkable. In the hills both my neighbor and I claim as our own, it is common sight. What is astonishing in the world I dream is that both my neighbor and I are painting the same picture, side by side. Together we brush the twilit air with the slightest hint of firewood smoke. A shared bronze kettle steams lightly among the stones, scented with rich hand-ground coffee. Shoulder by shoulder we engrave the leaves of the trees, tending to the guardians of the land as they nod their aged canopies approvingly. They have been waiting generations for us to learn to paint together. I trace the blue water, streaming between the rocks to caress the green leaves my neighbor grows on new trees along the mountainside. Together we paint pomegranates and grapes, figs and dates, a vision of heaven, a heaven, our shared home. The sky darkens, fear and doubt creeping back among the stones, but I find courage in my neighbor's eyes, and together we sweep out the shadows. While my neighbor draws a brilliant moon, I sparkle the night with shimmering stars. My neighbor also dreams a world, but we dream separately. The olives wait for us with endless patience, as they have for years, to learn to dream together. to paint our shared landscape alive with all our different colors, to understand that only side by side may we build our home in peace, in shalom, in salam. Let me dream you a world. If hope had a fragrance, it would surely smell like coffee, fresh paint, and olives.
The thing is like this: the world is scary, tomorrow is scary, and sometimes everything feels like too much for a small body in a vast universe. The thing is like this: the world is scary, but when I feel sad or insignificant, someone comes and hands me an umbrella. And maybe you wonder, what good is an umbrella in this situation? But it is not the object itself that helps me, it is that someone gave it to me, and if I go out to the streets, I can see what happens without getting wet. So I open it and walk over the cobblestones, looking around me. And although it's dark because of the clouds, I can't help but notice certain things. I hear the sound of the tiny drops incessantly running against the windows, the sound of kids playing in the puddles, the adults who run, covering themselves with their briefcases in a way different from mine. I see teenagers who laugh, 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 and around us it rains, rains, rains. And my shoes are soaked, but my ideas are clear, and suddenly I realize that there are fingers intertwined with mine. It's the person who gave me the umbrella. Their eyes are closed, and they inhale deeply. They are not covered like me, and their hair is dripping, but they look at peace. And I do not know why, at that precise moment, I close the umbrella, and suddenly, I am exposed to. I breathe in and out. My eyelashes flutter, and that is when I understand. It is like I said before, the world is scary, but they gave me an umbrella, and it wasn't the object that changed the course of things, but rather the fact that someone took my hand and accompanied me. Peace is all around. Tomorrow, maybe, is less frightening than I thought, and maybe I am small in a vast universe, but apparently the world is more beautiful than I used to believe.